Hey, and we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. We're doing another prestige class interview. Today we are sitting down with John Battle, more commonly known as Bats in game design circles, and potentially all circles as far as I know, because the game design circle is the only circle that you and I are in together. But I'm super excited about this conversation. John has a project up right now called Nerves that I just have been thrilled by the idea of. Love the vision for, and really need it to fund because I want a copy of it, and I want to pay for ad space in it, and I want to see the types of conversations that Bats is encouraging to become more normal. And that, and we'll get to all of those things. But before we do that, in case you've never been on a stream with us before, my name's Tony Vicinda. You can find me at Tony Vicinda across pretty much any social media platform. Plus One is a weird little brand that took levels in tabletop game design, beard, and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. We do actual play review content, preview content, and we do interviews with creators who we think we can learn something from, or that you might be able to learn something from, or that we can all learn from each other. And so Bats is absolutely one of those. The first time I ran into Bats' work was just following them on Itch, but then back to the Dungeon campaign, which is actually typically what we listen to right now as we're introing into any of our zine questing or other segments. If you hear any kind of just smooth, gentle, beautiful dungeon-esque synth in the background, that's from the Dungeon Kickstarter. Bats does gorgeous layout, absolutely phenomenal work. I love the colors that he uses, and that's what I think. And now I'm going to let Bats tell you a little bit more about who they are and from their own perspective.
Yeah, my name is John. I think pretty much everywhere I do go by Bats. I think that is true. But yeah, this is my first ever time being on like a stream or like having some sort of talk like this, so that's pretty exciting. I've been making games for, it feels like forever, but I haven't been, selling them until maybe last year or the year before that. And I would probably say Dot Dungeon is probably the thing that has let me continue doing that as a mostly job. And it's really exciting to be able to fulfill that hopefully soon, and move on to fulfilling Nerves when that gets funded shortly. I'm sure we've got like 5 days left.
Maybe while we're live on stream, guys, let's get that last $2,000 to get it over the top right now.
That would be so exciting.
Let's actually, for anybody who's watching, because I know that people will hop on and off of this, let's go ahead and do a quick elevator pitch for Nerves. I've actually got the page pulled up here. Oh, that's not the page. Hold on, that's my Facebook. You guys just saw behind the mirror.
Oops.
Let me change that tab on that browser. We've got the page up right here where people can see it. Tell us a little bit about Nerves and what it is. We'll come back and talk about it some more in depth later on, but just give kind of people the 30,000 foot view.
Yeah, so Nerves was sort of just a wild idea that I had like pretty much as soon as I finished Dot Dungeon, to create a tabletop role-playing game version of, say, like Polygon or Game Informer, and start to take more of an analytical approach to tabletop role-playing games, to start treating them like the art that I think most of us believe they already are. It's just not as commonly referred to as a form of art. It's still rather new. And so the scene was just me basically reaching out and saying, hey, who wants to write some cool articles? I don't want to be the only one talking about them. And then giving those people money to do that thing. So yeah, if you help get it help us fund it, you won't really be paying me as much as you will be helping me get money into the hands of these other writers who are extremely talented. And I'm very excited for what they are cooking up for this first issue.
Awesome. And like I said, we'll come back to that a little bit more at the end. We're going to talk specifically about how we talk about game design as art, why that's important, and then how that influences the project. But we were talking. You do a lot of phenomenal stuff. I know that people constantly are excited about the different layout options that you choose. By the way, if anybody out there is watching has conversations specifically or questions specifically for Bats, just drop them in the chat wherever you're watching. I should be able to see it pop up, and if for some reason I don't, hop over to Twitch or YouTube specifically because I know they'll work. And type it in. We'll ask the questions that you guys have. I also, recently we were just talking right before we went live. Saw one of your ads on Facebook for My Body is a Cage. Loved the look of it. Loved that it wasn't an ad for a Dungeons and Dragons supplement coming across my feed. I'll click on those links also too, but usually not because I'm interested in clicking through to buy. And I went through, bought a copy, bought a couple of different things from your store, and that was before we'd even set this up. And that's and then saw kind of the different stuff that you were doing with Nerves, and just got really excited about it. I've talked about it a few times on stream already, but let's talk a little bit about some of your other designs. You did Dot Dungeon. You've got My Body as a Cage. What are some of the other games that you've designed?
So after the Kickstarter for Dot Dungeon wrapped up, I started working and finished a project called Iron and Lot. It doesn't have any dice. It's all just about talking and well, telling lies to fairies, basically. And that one came out recently, and I had literally just shipped the last copy of it. It sold today, so I sent that one out today. Some other stuff earlier last year, I did The Wizards and the Wastes, which was a Ghibli inspired game about spellcasters. And that one was basically you got to pick like your favorite book or your favorite album and use it as your spell book and create spells from that one. And I think that might be one of my most popular ones that's released. It's one that people keep looking at on itch at least. So if you know me from something, it might be that. Other than that, I just did a lot of smaller stuff up until basically the Wizards and the Wastes. A lot of little dungeons, a lot of little games. Pretty much everything's up on itch. And I try to talk about important things on Twitter sometimes. Other times I just tweet about Pokemon. So it's kind of hit or miss.
And sometimes they overlap. Sometimes those
exactly,
Pokemon tweets come in fast and hot, and we never know quite what to expect. So let's talk a little about where you draw some of the inspiration for your ideas from. Let's start with Dot Dungeons. Tell people a little bit about what it was, but where did the idea for Dot Dungeon come from?
Well, one of my favorite games, or two of my favorite games, are Werewolf, the social game Werewolf, and Munchkin, the card game dungeon crawler kind of. You're trying to beat up your friends with a bunch of magic items game. And ever since I had played those games, I had been wondering about how to translate them to like a tabletop role-playing game. And I had recently watched Dot Hack Sign, which was one of my favorite animes when I was a kid. And I was just like, hey, this would be the perfect excuse for me to try to pair those two things together and take a sort of like let the real world influence the game sort of approach to like an MMO, I guess, atmosphere. So that's definitely where that came from. It was mainly Werewolf and Munchkin with just like the dressings of an MMO to kind of make it make sense to my head.
I love that you are a modern game designer who can just also admit that your Munchkins is an influential force. I was a Steve Jackson Games. I was a Steve Jackson Games MIB for a decade, so I went around and demoed more Munchkin than I could ever care to have all the dumb, ridiculous items.
Oh.
Even got to custom create one for a regional tournament.
Oh,
we
dang.
created a +1 belt buckle because I lived in Texas at the time. But GURPS, if I didn't start playing GURPS regularly, I don't know that this channel would exist. I mean, GURPS is really what got me. I was in love with the idea of role playing already, but I mean, I got the GURPS books and sat down and play and just created characters for 6 months before I even found a group to play around with, which is its own bizarre little mini game. Character creation in GURPS. So no, but I do love Munchkin, and like every once in a while, like we'll pull it out and we'll play it still to this day because it's just like it's fun. And now my kids are old enough for me to
that's perfect.
ruthlessly dominate at a game, and so that's awesome. And you said Iron and Lies. Iron and Lies is all about you're in the realm of fairies. It's just a narrative game. But you're basically equipped with whatever small items you have and lies, correct? Because I think I picked up My Body as a Cage, Iron and Lies, and the Radical poster were the things I grabbed from your store a couple weeks ago. So tell us a little bit about Iron and Lies and where the idea from that came from.
So that actually came from, I guess it was starting out as a collaboration. One of my friends on Discord just messaged me and was like, hey, I want to make a game called Iron and Lies. And I was like, that's really cool. But then like we started to go different directions and then they just kind of dropped it. So I was like, I'm going to take it my direction. And, if you ever want to finish yours, I'll help you with that one. So the inspiration is entirely theirs. And the idea was just that the only tools you have are lies and iron. Nothing. There's no dice. There's no stats. There are some. The character sheet does have some things that you can kind of use as parts of your lies and bargains and stuff like that. But the whole idea was just that a fairy will believe any lie you tell them. So the whole goal is to just try not to have those come back and bite you in the butt later on. And yeah, it was a very simple thing that I just tried to expand as much as possible with like actual usable content. With like, there's like I think 5 or 6 adventures in the book, a whole bunch of stuff like that. So you can just like pick it up and play it without having to go like looking for additional content right away.
That's cool. And then the other one, like they said, that originally caught my eye was My Body is a Cage, and it's you play as kind of a normal waking self, and then when you go to sleep, you're in like a classic 8-bit kind of dungeon crawlish experience, just trying to survive. So, there's a few themes that look like they kind of repeat within some of your design, and I think that's fairly common for any designer to kind of come back to these pieces we love that we're trying to explore through play and through design. But tell us a little bit about where that came from.
Yeah, that one has been around for quite a while, like in the works. I think the earliest I talked about it on Twitter was like sometime last year. It was originally supposed to be like a mecha game where instead of being in a dungeon, you would have your like social life and then you would go fight mechs. But as I started to work on that more, it just wasn't really clicking in my head. And then I just started to really get into the Persona series, which is now one of my more favorite video game RPG series, and just kind of exploring that idea of two worlds, which I think if anybody were to get anything from my games, it's the idea of there's like two different worlds that you're kind of traveling between, and sort of trying to make that more explicit, I guess, with My Body as a Cage. There are literally two sections of the game detailing the dungeon and then detailing the waking world, and trying to make that work just in a way that was fun. I think that was the main goal behind it. Is the bingo card, instead of having a class, you pick like a bingo card in that game, and basically as you do the things on the card, you get more points to use to do more things on the card, and you're trying to outwit the enemies and cause drama and things like that, and just trying to create something that was both socially fun, and then like rolling the dice is fun too. Like, I don't know if there's anything better than just getting the chance to roll like a handful of dice and seeing what comes up, and then also just having the excuse to cause some trouble with your friends around a table. I think those are probably the two big things behind the game.
Yeah, I was able to. I went to your store and pulled up a couple of the spreads from My Body's a Cage while you were talking, and I just want people to be able to see like how gorgeous it is. I also love that you go in for the wide book like page, like the kind of the wider structure on a lot of your layouts, which I think is super fun. We've got Willow's doing that for Torque. We've seen it come up in a couple other games in Zine Quest, and I think it just creates a really cool feel to be able to do a full 2-page spread that's not tall but wide, and see kind of what you can do across for that. By the way, Hope for TDRPGs and Lejeune are in the chat, and they say hello. And then My Body is a Cage reminds me a lot of Songbirds, Lejeune says, and then Hope says I love the soundtrack for My Body is a Cage also too. So which now I have to go back and listen to that soundtrack because I don't know that I realized it yet, and I'm sure I can probably download it right now. And so I like I said, I love it, and I think this it strikes me as fairly natural that you would be somebody who would want to elevate, like just looking at the work you do, looking at the it's something we talked about a lot lately on streams, is the craft that goes into some projects and being able to see that in certain creators' work. I think your work kind of screams that, and a lot of times it's people who have the skills and the ability to do things on multiple levels. People who can figure out what kind of music they want to go with something, whether or not they're composing it or not, or lots of whom have that skills to look at the layout, the design, the information architecture, like all those pieces, and put a real emphasis on saying, I want to fuse all of these into a larger whole that's more representative than any one piece might be. And whether you're doing that individually or through collaboration, I think that kind of craft and dedication is what makes people attracted to a game. Like, I'm not an artist for Repugnant, our game for this Zine Quest. I'm a partner with John DeCampos, who is a phenomenal, like mind-blowing artist doing it's a grotesque, disgusting world, but it's an absolute
Yeah.
the art's all beautiful that he's doing, and then like being able to fuse a system into that. And like I've been waiting on him to finish up this hit sheet piece we have so that I can finalize the mechanics. So I was like, whatever you draw, I will make that matter mechanically, but I need you have to draw it before I can do
Yeah.
that. So here's the general idea about how the entire system works. Here's the specifics that I know right now. Once you're done drawing, I will then go back through and figure out the specific mechanics for whatever it is you happen to represent. Because that kind of fused design for me is exciting and is more than just, well, we threw some dice and then that told us what happened.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me a little bit more about kind of like what led you to this conversation about wanting to talk about games as art.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with just most of my time. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV or film anymore. I watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of Twitch. So I end up watching a lot of video essays. And they just seem to be getting better and better with every passing day. And I was just like, why aren't there, we have like questing beasts for like reviews and like looking at books, but I was like, why aren't people talking about, tabletop role playing games? Because there's just a lot to talk about there. Like you said, there's already the fusing of it being like literature with words and like art with the illustrations. You have so much to talk about just there, the combination of those alone. And so I was just like, I want to read some articles about this. So I think the only way I can do that, at least right now, is to pay people to write them. And that was really it. It was just kind of born out of necessity. I was tired of not reading them, and also just tired of people talking a lot in Twitter threads that don't let you kind of expand on stuff. And there's tons of really great talk on Twitter, tons of great threads that you can see, and you read them and you're just like, I wish this was like a whole article. I wish I could dive into this and really get to know more about what they're trying to say. And so hopefully the goal is to create an outlet for that so that people can kind of funnel that energy and write some really great articles and get paid for it.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I love that. Like I love seeing more and more designers who are like, yeah, I'm not doing this for my profit, but I am doing this for the good of the community and so that people can make money, because that's actually like a noble thing, because we're not talking about money then as the means by which we amass material wealth, but the means by which we support the ability of the creator to create and the individual to thrive and survive, which is the good of money, right? If there is a good of money like that, is it, and that comes from those places. And so I'm love that we're seeing more and more of that within things, and I love that was built in. And I love that because you could have easily been like, well, the cost to print these is going to be $1,000, and so that's our goal, and we're just all gonna and we'll put payment in as stretch goals, and saying like, no, like it's 8,000 because we want to do it well, we want to set ourselves up for the future. I want to pay people for this one. I want to be able to pay people in the future. Like that's a noble cause worthy of supporting, and I'm absolutely thrilled that that is like something that you built into the project at that funding level. It's one of the reasons why from day one we've been like telling people to go back this project. It's one of the reasons why we got ad space, and then I'll buy copies of it, also too in the backer kit. Like I think it's absolutely essential that we see these types of conversations starting to take place. And sometimes when people propose them, it's like, there's Dragon Magazine, there's like all these other like, trad game like journals that used to come out, Pyramid from Steve Jackson Games. And we just don't see that same kind of thing in the indie field right now, outside of like random blogs that are just kind of put all over the place. And I love that we've kind of reached a point in the culture of like zines and game design and other things like that. And even within Zine Quest, like there are a number of projects this time around that are trying to say something about the culture of game design. So again, we're talking to Bats about games as art. If you're watching in the chat right now and you've got a question, let us know what it is. Or if you've got a comment that you really want us to say because you think it's just super pearlescent and important to the conversation, I'll say smart things that you guys type in and take credit for them. No, I'll give you full credit. Seen some people like more. I've seen some more people like Optional Rule getting into writing more articles. Yeah, like there are people out there who are doing that creative work. So tell us again. Again, we talked about it's up right now. We were talking right before we went live. The likelihood is it's going to fund. Like your curve, you've got the last 48 hours, which we know kicks in a lot of, oh yeah, like I want that. Don't
Yeah.
forget, moments. But we're gonna keep on talking about it over the next couple of days, just because I'd love for you to fund and then overfund at least a little bit. You
Yeah, I
know,
appreciate it.
um, you made the choice to include ad space in it. Like, tell me a little bit about that, because there were some people, even when I was showcasing it, I remember on stream for the first time, people were like, ad space, and I was like, yeah, ad space. Guess what? I'm backing this level at. I'm backing it to the ad space level because I want that. Like, I want to be able to get that.
Yeah.
Tell me about the choice to include ads in the magazine.
Well, really, it just sort of made sense, like when I was thinking about it. And I did some research about just like how do magazines get made, and I remember I worked. I was in publications class in high school, so I helped basically get the funding and put together the yearbook for my last year of school. So like I understood that's like how do people normally pay for things, and it's usually with ads. And then I also just wanted to give some of the bigger creators who have the opportunity to fund a project like this the chance to kind of put their money where their mouth is in a way. Like tons of people can grab an ad just to support. It's like some bigger names I know that Sean with Mothership, he has been very supportive, both on Twitter and just talking to me in private about things. So just like giving these people who maybe have wanted to do something like this, but didn't really know how or didn't have the time, usually, giving them the opportunity to help, like me, somebody who does have the time right now, to get this thing together and funded. It just made sense to me to do ads. Otherwise, it would have just been like two backer tiers, and that works for a lot of people. But I knew that the 8,500 mark was probably going to be pretty steep for a lot of people. So giving them that extra push to get something a little more uh, was a big inspiration.
Well, I love it. It also, I think, with the layout of the zine, the presentation that you have for it, the concept behind it, like for me, it was, pardon me, for me, it was easy to say I want to put in $50 to an ad, like as a growing YouTube channel that really wants to support people who are creators. Like, this is an opportunity for to do that directly with the money, and then let people know I exist in the exact type of publication that I want to be supporting, that would draw from the type of creators that I want to connect with. Like, for me, it was almost it felt like a custom designed level. But I have a couple larger people who are like, they're more in the board game space, but they have like huge audiences and patrons. I need to send it over to them to make sure, because they are the kind of people who would buy those larger, potentially full page ads, because they love the concept of indie RPGs. They don't have the time to play them. But a couple of them
Yeah.
and I are talking about starting to do a monthly feature on their channels where I'll run a game for them, and then they can review it on their much larger board game facing or tabletop general facing channels to help try to draw people more into the indie scene, also
Yeah.
too. So I think some of them would be absolutely great. Yeah, we've got people for Hope. Like Hope's going to back it at the $150 level. Now we have people like Hope, who's like, their whole mission, just like ours, is to help people, indie creators and small tabletop creators, find an audience and find their audience. And so I actually really love the fact that that was an option. Because I was telling somebody, like, I've backed advertising space and other people's zine quest projects before, not thinking this is going to get me anything, but desiring to say, this is how much I care about this, right? This is how much I care about this and how I want to connect with people. And so Hope says that she does really want to. John DeCampo says he's going to put an ad in for Token Terrors. John's my collaborator on our Zine Quest project also too.
Heck yeah.
Token Terrors actually is a phenomenal, absolutely beautiful skirmish game, but the miniatures can be used for Magic or tabletop role-playing game or other things like
Oh,
that.
dang.
Yeah, and there's other people who are talking about the fact that ads are all they learned in magazine class.
Yeah. I will say this too. I have no doubt there's a ambulance going by, so you might hear a siren. I have no doubt in my mind that after it gets funded, that we will sell all these copies. So that is going to be at least several hundred people holding your advertisement. So like even somebody who maybe is like you, who's just doing it partially to help support. I think in the end, these zines will be in a lot of places. I will make sure of it. I'm pretty dedicated when I get a hold of something to get it out there, and I think it's going to be a good opportunity for people to hopefully grow a little bit on their own.
Oh no, I mean, I absolutely think I will see like new viewers from your Z. I'm not at all
I hope
worried
so. Yeah.
about that either. Like, my statement is I would have done it either way. I should have been more clear about that. Yeah, the last one was like, yeah, this I don't know if this is going to go anywhere because that guy was mostly selling ad space and then also sold some copies of the zine. This one is going to be mostly selling copies of the zine with also ad space on top. So again, I think it's a win all around for that piece.
Yeah,
But
that's the
again,
hope. Yeah.
it's a smart thing to include because again, it also references like what's the cost of this? How do we make this sustainable? Rather than just like, hey, we did it once. It was
Yeah,
great. And
that
even
was
if
a
that's
big
the
thing
case,
for me.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, being able to kind of repeat it. So let me ask you just a couple questions as we end. What's like one conversation that you guys aren't necessarily addressing in this first issue, but you really can hope you can that people can kind of dive into? I know you're inviting people just to kind of share their thoughts, but what are maybe some of the conversations you're really hoping we see open up about games as art and design in the future?
Well, one thing, again, kind of going back to like I watch a lot of video essays. I would love to open up to more like people talking specifically about like a certain game, because a lot of these articles that we have now are more either personal. They're a lot about representation and things like that. But letting people dive into like whichever game they choose, like even if they did choose D&D or something like that. Um, I say begrudgingly. They letting them kind of dig into it and analyze it on both a personal level and then just in relationship to other art forms, because that's sort of what is the bread and butter of analysis, is being able to compare like say a novel to a film and like the different kind of parallels you can find there, and being able to even just start letting people do that with like somebody could pick up Fate and try to compare it to an album or a comic. Just letting that sort of like specificity begin, I think, is what I'm most excited for. Besides just the general representation talk, which is I was really excited to get a lot of the people that signed up for this first issue, because a lot of people were really excited to tell their story, and not only tell their story but help other people understand their story a little bit more, instead of just telling somebody. A lot of these people wanted to surprisingly do like the labor of helping teach, which was like really big, and I didn't expect that. So those are probably the two things I think would be that I'm most excited for, both with this issue and moving forward to any future issues that we get to do.
I love it. We're talking with Bats, John Battle from the Nerves Project, which is live right now on Kickstarter. It is doing incredibly well. Like we were talking about, it's going to fund as long as people keep backing it. I guess if everybody stopped right now, I would be very upset because it's a project I actually care a whole lot about, and that I want to see more projects like in the future, or at least this one, but consistently supported. You can go over and find it on Kickstarter by just typing in Nerves. If you have an idea about a conversation you'd love to see in this type of magazine, go ahead and type it into the chat. Looks like Panda Atheist mentioned throughout, does system matter, which I think is a bigger conversation, is just so very good.
I'll have to ask Jared about that one.
And I know that like lots of times, even as we're going through our zine question series right now, we're doing both normal, just daily ones, but on normally Thursdays, though tomorrow we're streaming Gods of Metal Ragnarok by Hunters Entertainment in the middle of the day, and then we are doing Never Going Home by What Ain't Games in the evening. So we're kind of taking a break from Zine Quest coverage tomorrow, so I'm not doing it. But Lloyd Metcalf and I from the Artist RPG Hub on Facebook are talking about just the specific art on campaigns once a week. We're just getting together online. We're going to do it on Friday this week, and just whether we've covered them before or not, looking at the art, talking a little bit about composition, talking about it's always enthusiastic. We pick projects we like, not projects to dunk on. But
That's exciting.
there are so many great, beautiful projects out there, and we'll oftentimes talk about the design of the system, but what we're really actually talking about and responding to is oftentimes the visual design, but we completely ignore the artist on a lot of these games. And so there are just so many good conversations about games as art, but also the art in games, about layout, around how we make systems and other things fuse together. And there's a lot of great emerging things out there. Right now, I feel like we're seeing indie RPGs, and because of the renaissance of OSR right now, we're seeing a lot of the same desire for narrative to take the forefront. And I feel like Nerves is a great place to have those types of conversations. And a whole lot of other ones also too. So if you guys have any questions right now, I know we've got about 20 people watching, about how we talk about games as design or ideas for other things, let me know. We'll do a little dunking. I mean, but only about games, only about art we like. We only dunk on things we like, and we clarify that we love them and why we love them first. And so, but yeah. So, John, before we go, and while people get a chance to ask that, what are some of the projects you've been most excited about this Zine Quest?
Oh gosh. Well, I actually had like a Twitter post the other day because I was like, I'm really lazy. Somebody give me some cool things to back, and I got a big list of them. One of them, I think most
I
of them
sent
have
you a
already
video I
funded.
made just for you. Wink.
Yeah. I think most of the ones that I've backed have already funded, but one that I'm really excited about is one from I would consider them a friend. Their name is Lore. I met them because they were streaming my 6th edition game, and I was like, that's really cool. But then they're running a Kickstarter for Lichcraft, which is this really cute game about an issue, like an actual issue, but they've really taken it in their own voice and have made it something that I don't know, I would love to play, let alone just own. And it seems so cute. The art looks so amazing. I've actually talked about it a lot before, but this new edition of it is going to be expanded, and I think that's probably the one I'm most excited for. But there's still, I don't know, like you said, there's so many beautiful Kickstarters out there right now.
If you're not familiar with Lichcraft, the concept is that you're a trans individual who keeps on getting moved down in a near futuristic society on the waiting list for medical services. Which I also, anybody who's trying to navigate this is what I love about Lichcraft. Whether like it, and even as we're talking tonight about representative games with Laura, but the concept of being pushed back on the medical waiting list and having to navigate complex medical systems is just a real human issue that a lot of us
Yeah.
deal with a lot of the time, especially in the design community. And having a game that looks at that specifically through a trans lens, and the fact that just being fed up with that and becoming liches instead is amazing. We're actually friends with we're actually helping underwrite Lore's Hieronymus print run.
Oh yeah, that was such a cool game. Oh my
In
gosh.
the UK, and then we're going to do she's going to do a short print run in the US, that we'll have copies of at Plus One EXP also too, so that people can do that. So big fan of the design that Lore does, and so but yeah, there's been a ton of great and amazing projects. So tell people again one more time, what is Nerves and where can people find it online?
Yeah, so Nerves is the chance to create an analytical tabletop role playing game scene that isn't about giving you gameable stuff, and it's more about giving you things to think about, and hopefully written by really amazing people in each article. We've got 8 articles already planned for this first issue. Each one is by somebody who has a pretty good pedigree, not necessarily always in the tabletop role playing game like sphere, but I know we have Sharang, who's done some really great work just writing articles that have already been really inspirational already. And we have a lot of great people putting a lot of work into this scene. It's going to be, it should be funded soon. The Kickstarter campaign ends in 5 days, 4 or 5 days. We're really close to the mark. You can find it on Kickstarter by just typing in Nerves. It should be the first one that comes up. You can also check it out on Twitter. And the handle for that is at nerves_project. That is the one specifically for the zine and other things that we end up doing. And yeah, if you back it at any of the tiers, I guarantee you'll be getting the zine really quickly. These writers have already been like chomping at the bit to get going. Even though I told them like, please don't write anything until I can pay you. A lot of them have already sent me stuff, and I'm like, oh gosh, you guys, it's super exciting, and we're gonna get it to you as quick as we can, and hopefully get the second one out just as quick. So yeah, if you can back it, please do. I'm super excited for it. I know a lot of people have been saying really good things about it already, so it's been really exciting.
Uh, John DeCampos just bought a full page ad for.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I guarantee you the last thing you'll be waiting on for this project to be fulfilled is me making sure I get you my ad in the right format before it
Oh
goes live.
gosh.
So I'll start working on that now. Uh, but no, I'm super excited about this project. I hope everybody out there watching is. I think this is an absolutely essential conversation for the indie RPG scene. I think it also will help us bridge the conversation into people who just don't understand why role-playing games, and I would say board games and game design in general, needs to be approached as a form of art. Please, please, please consider backing if you haven't already, or if you have. Or if you, let's say you're at the end of your budget, here's something I would love you to consider. It's something that we really love. It's called $28, 28 days. It's the thing that we're encouraging people to do. This zine quest, and that's just going and backing a project for $1 or £1, whatever your unit of currency is, wherever you live. And just one project a day from a creator. Even if you're not interested in what the reward is, just to help give them $1. Help Kickstarter discover them a little bit more, help boost the algorithm for that, and then sharing it online to help other people who might like that project. I know of no creator who would say no to $1 or even 1,000 $1 pledges if that's
Definitely.
what their game
Yeah.
got backed at or their project got backed at. So please consider going to do that. And again, I want to remind you guys, we're going to be back tonight. We're going to be talking with Laura Turner, and I keep on not knowing how to pronounce the name of Laura's game company, so I'll figure that out before tonight. But about her Trans Rage anthology that's right now live on Kickstarter, and what the design process went in for that, what Laura's design process has been like. But then we're also going to talk about representational games and how people approach games that represent a community that they are not a part of, how they play and engage with those games. That's going to be tonight at 9:30 Eastern. Tomorrow we're going to be streaming a live stream of a game I'm very excited about, which is Gods of Metal Ragnarok by Hunters Entertainment. Hunter is a very, very large indie publishing company that's putting out just phenomenal work right now, and that we're really excited about. So if you want to come back tomorrow and see me with my makeup done and my hair poofed up and dressed all metal, you can come back and see that tomorrow. If you don't want to see that, in the evening we'll have Never Going Home from Wedding Games, which is a Weird War One unit management RPG where we're all trapped up in occult forces in a battlefield in Europe, and we're all going to die. And that's it's just kind of how it works. So we're going to be playing both of those games tomorrow, as long with a short zine questing somewhere tossed in there. Our game, Repugnant, launches on Monday. If you haven't launched that or checked that out yet, it's ttrpg.link/gross RPG. Will take you right to that page where you can click follow and hopefully come back and back that. John DeCampos and I are incredibly thrilled about that, and I can't wait to share more about it with you guys over the next little bit. But until then, until next time, man, I thought of a good way to sign off earlier today. I don't remember what it was. So until next time, we're just going to wave at the camera until I take us off stream.